Welcome to the Bankless by Design podcast, where we rethink money, ditch the system, and rediscover what it means to truly thrive well. I'm Tricia Miller, mom of 7, financial coach, and founder of Thrivewell. Around here, we believe wealth is more than numbers. It's about freedom, stewardship, and building a legacy that lasts. If you're ready to challenge the norm and take back control of your financial life, you're in the right place. Hello, and welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. If you are new to the infinite banking concept, or maybe you have gotten kind of lost in the weeds looking at it and you've gotten confused, well, I'm going to try my very best to keep this very simple and explain what the infinite banking concept is in the simplest terms. Essentially, the infinite banking concept is about taking over the banking process in your own life. That's why Nelson called it becoming your own banker, because that is exactly what you're doing when you participate in the infinite banking concept. You're becoming your own banker so that you're no longer dependent on third-party banks. So to understand this, we really need to understand what happens with banking. What is banking? Well, banking is essentially this idea that when you have an income, you need a place to put it until you're ready to go and spend it. So you have cash flows coming in and you have cash flows going out. And some of the time you don't have enough cash in your account. And so you wind up needing to borrow the money from someone else and then you pay it back with interest. So all of those things, depositing, borrowing, paying back, those are all the pieces of banking. And we do it all the time and we just don't even think about it. And while we do that, someone else is making a really handsome profit off of us. So to be clear, this is about how we finance the things in life. It's about where we store our capital, and it's about who is in control. So I think about it as 2 adverbs and a pronoun. How, where, and who. Now, did you happen to hear me say anything in any of that about investing? No. None of that was about investments. The infinite banking concept is not about a rate of return, and it's not about investments of any kind whatsoever. So just because we get that all of the time, people start trying to compare the infinite banking concept with an investment. And they say, well, I can get a better rate of return over here. Well, the problem with that is that just indicates that person has not understood what the infinite banking concept is all about, because it has nothing to do with investments. It's about banking. And Nelson also talks about how there are 4 different characters in the play of banking. So I want to think about that for just a second. There's both the borrower and the depositor. There's also the banker and the bank owner. Now, we typically are accustomed to being the borrower and the depositor. We make the deposits in our account and we borrow money when we need it to finance the things that we need in life. But we're not typically the banker or the bank owner. Someone who's maybe doing some private lending in real estate might have a little bit more experience being the banker. They're still probably not the bank owner. So what does that have to do with all of this? Well, when you become your own banker, when you participate in the infinite banking concept, you're going to actually need to learn how to wear a couple different hats. You're going to still be the depositor and the borrower, but now you are also going to be the banker and the bank owner. And that requires some learning. That requires a little bit of a mindset shift. Just for a simple example, loans to the consumer are a liability, but loans to a banker are an asset. That's how they make their money. So we have to shift our thinking when we are considering this. Okay. When we talked about it not being an investment, let me just say this as well. Banking is the most profitable business in the world. So we want to be in both the business of whatever it is you're already doing to bring in an income and the banking business. And when we do that, we will supercharge everything else we are already doing, including our investments. So for example, if you're investing in real estate, fantastic. That's wonderful. Become your own banker and invest in real estate, and you will supercharge your profits. If you're starting your own business, another fantastic venture. start your own business and become your own banker and have your own banking business. And that will, for one thing, give you greater access and liquidity to your own capital to use for your business. And your money will also keep growing while you're conducting your business. And so it's a fantastic thing to combine together. How about if we are just trying to get out of debt? Well, you can become your own banker and you can get out of debt, and you'll do so faster and far more efficiently as long as you have the discipline to do so. Whatever you're already doing, the point is that you can do and become your own banker and use those same dollars twice and even 3 times. This is not an either or concept. This is a both and. You can do this and go make your investments, and everything will be better for it. So before I digress too much, I wanted to get back into the how we finance, the where we store our capital, and the who is in control. Okay? So how do we finance the things in life? Well, typically we know if we need to go buy a house, we're going to go to the bank and we're going to apply for a big, huge loan for a mortgage, right? And we're going to pay that back with interest, with lots of interest. Same thing when we need a car. We're going to usually go to the bank and we're going to borrow money to buy the car. Maybe we do it at the dealership. Either way, we typically have a car payment with interest being paid back, right? Let's say something a little bit smaller though. Maybe our washing machine just broke down and now we need to go fix our washing machine. Well, maybe we happen to have enough cash in our account to just go pay cash for the washing machine. And we think we're doing great because this time we've paid cash. So we've saved some money, right? Well, not necessarily, because here's the thing. No matter which one of those items you bought, I don't care if you bought a cup of coffee, every single dollar you spend on anything is always financed one way or another. You either borrow the money from a bank or from somebody else and you're paying them back with interest, or if you have paid cash, you're losing the interest that those dollars could have earned for you had they stayed working for you. In the first scenario, the easy part is that you can actually see the interest you're paying back, right? You have it on your loan statement. You see principal and interest, and this is my total I'm sending in for the month. So we see that interest. But funny thing is, just because we don't see the cost of our capital doesn't mean it's not there. You see, because now when we paid cash, we used money from ourselves that we can no longer be using to earn for us. It's taking away from what those dollars could have earned had they been able to stay in our own system growing every single day, right? It's like they are our dollars. The richest man in Babylon says your dollars are like your little worker bees, right? It's like we fired them and sent them home permanently. Now they can never work for us again. So we didn't just lose our own dollars that we paid in cash. We lost all of the dollars that those dollars could have earned in the future. And that's a little bit mind-blowing, but that's the truth. Whether we think of it or see it or not, those dollars have disappeared forever, as well as all of the earnings that they might have brought in otherwise. So one of the ways that I like to think about this myself is that because if I just simply thought about somebody else asking to borrow and use my money, then suddenly I think differently about it. I'm not sure why that is, but it's true. Somebody else wants to borrow my money. I think, oh, well, now I can't use those dollars. So that means that I need to have some kind of return on that to make it worth my while. So you hear that, worth my while, because those dollars have a worth. And so we think, well, if I lend that $20,000 to my friend to help her buy a car, well, that's $20,000 I no longer have. What could I have done with that $20,000? Maybe that's a big example. I don't know. But just the same, it's the same principle, right? It's $20,000 I don't have to fix up my house, to repair my air conditioning, or to also potentially put down on a payment for a rental property that would bring in cash flow. So suddenly you got to think differently about this. Oh, somebody wants to borrow my money. I want an interest rate. Well, that's the same thing with the bank, right? The bank says, you want to borrow my money? There's going to be an interest rate. So why don't we value our own dollars when we spend them? The dollars didn't lose. they have the same value no matter what, no matter who's using them, but we just don't think about it when we do it ourselves. We spend our money pretty frivolously without thinking about, I didn't just spend that $1. I spent that $1 plus all of the dollars that dollar would have earned in the future, which, by the way, over a lifetime is usually $5, $6, $7, $8. So you can see the exponential growth there, or the exponential loss, the cost of paying cash. So this is especially hard maybe for some of my Dave Ramsey friends who have been taught that everything should be paid in cash. We should not be a borrower or a lender. And yet you're really still financing. You just didn't think about it that way. So let me go on to this idea of where we store our capital. So how we finance it, it's usually with a third-party bank. Infinite banking concept brings that home. Where we finance it then matters, or where we store our capital then matters, because we could store it in a coffee can. That would not be very efficient. It does not grow. It does not, while our dollars are sitting in there. But, it's handy, I suppose. Easy to come by, but not going to be very useful for online banking, right? So let's just think this through. And Nelson says that you have to use your imagination, logic, and reasoning and prophecy when, I think I've got those completely out of order, when you're looking at the infinite banking concept. So when he says that a mutually owned dividend-paying whole life insurance policy is actually the best place to store your capital, we have to use our imagination a little bit. But he goes on to show how all of the elements of the banking system are actually in that contract with the life insurance company, all set up for us, only we don't have to go and, buy a building on the corner and come up with millions and millions of dollars in order to make it happen. You've already got the administration in place with the life insurance company. When you're participating with a mutually owned life insurance company, you actually become a part owner in the company. So therefore, you are like the bank owner, the stockholders that get dividends. Well, that happens for you too. When you put your capital into one of these policies, you get the dividend, you get the profits from the company because you are an owner. You also get to be the one in control of your capital because you can decide how that money's going to be spent, how much you need, how much you're going to borrow, how you're going to pay it back, when you're going to pay it back, at what terms you're going to pay it back, and even if you're going to pay it back, because you are the banker. So this mutually owned dividend-paying whole life insurance contract is a place to warehouse your dollars and then from there, borrow against the cash values, collateralizing that in order to use the life insurance company's money for all of the things that you need to finance in life, paying yourself back like an honest banker. However, your dollars sitting inside that policy never leave, and therefore they continue to grow uninterrupted, compounding every single day for the rest of your life, guaranteed by private contract. It's actually a genius idea, and it is a genius concept. So therefore, you now are the one who can earn on your dollars, go use your money as you need to finance the things you need in life, recapture the interest by paying yourself back. Instead of making that car payment to the bank, if you're making that car payment back to a system that you own and control, all of those dollars that were being lost to interest are being recaptured into your own system, and you can use them again. What dollars, pray tell, when you go and you buy a car and you pay to the third-party bank your $500, $600, $700 payment every single month, do you ever see those dollars again? No, you don't. But in the infinite banking concept, when you set it up this way and you borrow against that policy to go buy that vehicle, and then you pay those dollars back into a system you own and control, you actually see those dollars again, plus the interest, and your dollars never quit growing. So, are you starting to get an idea? This is why banking is the most profitable business in the world, and we want to take over that banking function for ourselves. And then again, I had mentioned Who is in control? Well, when you are the owner of that contract, it is a private contract. You have all the rights of handling those dollars, that capital, and that policy. You're the one who gets to decide, as I mentioned before, what are the terms for borrowing? What are your payback schedule? How much money are you going to put into your system? And so forth. You are completely in control. And this is also something we're going to have to explore further another time. But control of your own dollars is so important. And we have given up so much control with all of our qualified plans. We get into a crisis and all of a sudden we realize, oh, I've been putting all this money out of my paycheck for months and months and months, and I cannot touch it without penalties and taxes. So now what do I have to do? I have to go back to a third-party bank and I have to beg, borrow, and plead to use their money because my money is so tied up, I can't touch it. That is a huge piece that was such an eye-opener for me getting into this, was that access to your capital and control may be one of the most important things, that because it can be the difference between, for example, if you have your money tied up in real estate and you may have equity in there, but if you can't touch it, you can't buy the groceries. And that can be a very sorry state of affairs. So access and control is so important. And the infinite banking concept allows you to be the one who answers the who is in control. All right. So that, my friends, is the infinite banking concept in a nutshell, as simply and clearly as I can put out there. Let me just add this one bit of piece of understanding because I think this is important. The infinite banking concept that we talked about is a process. It is the process of banking. Like I said, you could do it out of a coffee can. The mutually owned dividend-paying whole life policy is the product which we use as the tool. It's the best tool to perform the banking function in your life, but it's just the tool. So if you can kind of grasp that, you're well on your way. It's not complicated. It's not risky. We tend to make it complicated. It's easy to get into the weeds, but this is truly a very simple concept that anyone can learn. In fact, it can be taught to children, and children sometimes do a better job of being able to talk about it because they don't get all hung up in all of the details. So I hope that you found this helpful. And if you have any questions or comments, I'd love for you to send them my way. I'd be happy to respond to them to the best of my ability. And if you're interested in getting started, don't hesitate to reach out to me at Bankless by Design. I'm so thankful to have you here listening. So thank you for joining me, and you have a great week. Thanks for tuning in to the Bankless by Design podcast, where we're done with the system and we're doing money differently. Be sure to subscribe, share this episode with someone who needs it, and visit us at banklessbydesign.com to learn how you can start living bankless by design.